By now, you've all seen this iconic shot. This was the shot taken just after someone took a shot at Donald Trump. And I wanted to get to the bottom of this. But of course, I'm not an expert to talk about any of these things. So, what did I do? I reached in my Rolodex and I found an expert, someone that I know that can talk at a decent amount of authority to this situation here. So, welcome to the show, Danny Bulford. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're a busy guy with, especially your expertise in light of what just happened recently over this past weekend.
Oh, my pleasure, man. No problem. But yeah, I kind of fallen off the radar, and I was kind of living my quiet little nor- northern life and on the farm, and then someone takes a shot at Donald Trump, and all of a sudden my phone just starts going crazy with people reaching out like, what's going on? What do you think happened? Like, because I mean that
So,
was my wheelhouse, right? That was my exact job for 8 years, was a counter
exactly. So,
sniper.
can you, yeah, let people know what exactly you did? You were a 15-year veteran of the police, RCMP, protecting the prime minister, this exact job.
Yeah, so 15 years total, but for the last 8 years of my career, I was a full-time sniper on the RCMP emergency response team based in Ottawa. And the majority of my time, like my majority of my operational time, was doing counter sniper duties, like the Secret Service snipers that you've seen in those videos that shot the shooter that took the shots at Trump.
So the big question here is how did it even get to this point? I mean, the whole idea is you were able to do your job because you made sure that this never happened. That's the whole point of you being there, is that you don't have to take that shot and take out somebody. It's the whole apparatus. You're the kind of the last line of defense. And hopefully you never have to get to that point. But how do we get to a point where somebody even gets within 150 meters on a rooftop with Trump in their sights?
Well, and that's the big question, right? Like that's what anyone who comes from, military law enforcement background that has experience in doing like sniper overwatch or counter sniper duties, or even people who do close protection, like that's I think that's the big question everybody has, is how did this guy get this close in broad daylight without being intercepted? Because I mean, my experience, I've worked with the Secret Service on multiple occasions, right? I've worked with them for the president and for the vice president, both domestically in Canada and even internationally with vice president. When the prime minister went to the APEC summit in Papua New Guinea, and like the Secret Service rolls heavy. They have a heavy duty package normally. I mean, granted, that's a serving vice or president. I'm not exactly certain how big the package is for a presidential candidate, but I mean, Trump is a former president as well, right? Which so he's pretty much guaranteed Secret Service protection because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at an event in Washington D.C. in February at CPAC, and Trump spoke there, and that was like a pretty significant security presence there, just specifically on the day that he was attending to speak. It was basically going through like an airport type security where you get wanded, you get pat down, anything that you have with you has to go through metal detectors just to get access to the venue of where he was going to be speaking, and that was inside. Normally before an event like this, like before this rally, Secret Service personnel would have been going at the very least days ahead of time, maybe even more, to do a recce or an advance, and look at the site, determine everything that they need as far as like resources and to build their emergency plans, like contingency plans, like for something like this. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to start identifying potential threats, including potential threat areas where a hostile shooter could be located or could try and take a shot from. And then you're going to start plunking resources around to try and mitigate that possibility. So, I mean, from the video that I saw of the sniper, you see him on his gun. Looks like he picks his head up and then quickly gets back down on the gun. You hear gunshots from the hostile shooter, I presume, and then you see like his rifle recoil on the tripod there. So he engaged pretty quick, as far like after the initial shots were fired from the hostile shooter. Now, what we can't see is what he was seeing before that happened, right?
Hmm.
I, I can't say for certain what obstacles may have been in his view of the shooter, if any. But, to me, when I see that video, it seems to me like the reason why he would maybe pick his head up off his scope like that is to like maybe get a better look at what he's actually looking at, like
Right.
maybe get a wider angle. Um,
So it's really weird
Maybe like
because, like,
maybe he's trying to seek like positive target identification, because that's a big thing before you pull that trigger, right? Like you have to know that you're shooting at a legit threat,
right.
because you don't want to shoot an unarmed person, and you also don't want to shoot at something that's not a threat and in the middle of a Trump rally, right? And send everybody into a panic. Like you have to make sure that there's a legitimate threat there to shoot at.
So my first thought was, as soon as I saw snipers looking down their scopes, so essentially looking down the barrel of their rifle,
Yeah.
that's when I assumed that they were assessing a real threat, a credible threat. I assumed that there would be communications or things like that. It seems like a big failure of communication anyway. But I do have an image here of the snipers, the same snipers, but only just before they were looking through binoculars. So this is, I'm assuming, what you typically be doing. You wouldn't be scanning the ground with your rifle, correct?
No, no, like that what you see right there is that's typical. Like you're not going to be on your gun scoping a giant crowd of innocent people with your rifle. Your your gun is going to be set up, either on the roof like that, maybe sometimes in a stand of some kind, like a shooting stand. But you're going to be to scan the area and to scan the crowds and to scan the bush line and all that kind of stuff. You're going to be using binos, right? You're only going to get on the gun if there is an indication that there's some kind of threat that you may have to engage.
Now, in the same video, it shows that just under a minute before the shot started ringing out, these two were on their guns and they were pointing in a particular direction. Now, we don't know what their communications were. We don't know what was being said back and forth, but we do know that there was people witnessing this whole scenario. There were Trump supporters out at
Yeah,
the rally saying, "Hey, there's a guy up on the roof,"
yeah. They
and then
they
we found out reports just today. We found out reports that there was actually an officer that got up on a ladder and
was
saw the guy
confronted.
and was confronted. The guy turned around and pointed his rifle at the police officer and then proceeded to crest the roof and take his shots. I don't know what kind of timeline that was, what happened there. But so what kind of communications should the Secret Service have with the local law enforcement? Is this just like a massive breakdown of communications, or is there not a protocol there in place?
Oh no, there would definitely be a protocol in place to have like communication with friendly forces. Um, Normally, you might have more than one channel on the go, because there can be a lot of chatter for certain groups, and certain groups need to have like very strict radio discipline. But I think as soon as you see those guys get down on their gun, and especially like they're both looking in the direction where the shooter was, obviously someone indicated to them that there was a something that was a threat in that direction in order for them to do that. Uh, the delay, I don't know. Like the videos that I've seen of eyewitnesses saying that they were trying to alert law enforcement to the presence of the gunman climbing up on the
Mm-hmm.
roof. Like they say that it was like, at least like 2 to 3 minute delay before they really got any kind of a reaction. You know, which is possible, but at the same time, sometimes when you're in a high stress situation like that, it feels like time kind of like really expands, like time slows down. That's my experience anyway. Um, but there, it definitely seems like it's very, very odd to me, and I can't imagine a possible scenario where that guy gets that close with a rifle, broad daylight, climbs up onto the roof, and maneuvers into a position like that without being intercepted by somebody. If if he's out of view of the sniper team, like at least people on the ground, right? Like typically
Mhm.
there's layers and layers of security at an event like that. And I mean, I don't know for certain what happened with the officer on the ladder, right? I mean, I wasn't there, but you would think that normally if someone points a gun at you, typically the response is that you engage them. I mean,
Right.
you're pretty vulnerable on a ladder, so maybe you reposition and then you know draw your firearm and get ready to fight. But at the very least, that should be getting communicated. Like as soon as you have a positive confirmation that there's a threat there, then that communication better get pumped out to the group as a whole so that they can start taking like immediate action, right? Like, getting
Mhm.
the VIP out of there, sending like a QRF or a counter assault team to go, maybe, or even the local law enforcement SWAT team then spools up to go deal with the threat while the Secret Service moves Trump out of harm's way.
Yeah, that's what's
Those are
astonishing to
the
me.
things that I would expect.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of people would expect in this situation. This is why so many people have so many questions. Because, I mean, yeah, I would assume immediately, as soon as there's confirmation that there's a shooter somewhere, anywhere, it doesn't matter. You think that Trump would have got ripped right off the stage, like forcibly pulled off the stage. Your life's in danger, which, I mean, by the graces of God, I mean, like everyone's saying, it's a miracle that he even survived it. It's incredible that he turned his head at just the opportune moment. But this is what's breeding a lot of conspiracy theories, right? The whole idea that it got this far while his opposition politically, his opposition with the media, they're essentially, they've been calling for this kind of thing to happen for some
Mm-hmm.
time. I mean, it only feels like a matter of time before someone would try this. And to see, there's the whole lie hop thing, let it happen on purpose sort of scenario that people are alluding to. Like, is this something that either they let it go on? Anyway, this one picture that's surfing around. I wanted to dispel this one because this one smelled like BS to me immediately, and it's a 4chan post claiming to be the sniper himself, saying that he was told to stand down in this situation. What's your take on that?
I saw that post too, and that's bullshit. Sorry, but that's what it is. And definitely in law enforcement, you, I was never trained that you have to wait for a green light. Like if you see a hostile threat, like a lethal threat, you immediately have the legal authority to engage. In fact, I would argue that you're obligated to, in order to prevent further loss of life. So this, the some Secret Service commander overriding a sniper from taking a shot at a lethal threat, I don't buy that at all. I think that's garbage. I think that's Hollywood garbage. I can think of maybe a possible scenario where like a military sniper, is in position laying in wait for a high value target that they're assigned to take out. And then maybe a scenario like that, you're waiting for authorization to do it. But in the law enforcement world, it's totally different. Totally different. You're
So BS.
oh yeah, it's total BS. It's total Hollywood garbage.
And that's the problem with, things as they unfold in real time and people are throwing stuff out there. There was a bunch of misconfirmations of who the shooter was. There was a lot of information that went out there. Just like in every case like this, you get
Yeah.
a ton of people wanting to get the clicks or wanting to get notoriety for being there first, and or even just BS, total BS like this. But yeah, so the other thing is, that's the idea, is this conspiracy theory that this was allowed to happen, as opposed to just being a failure, all across the board failure. Now, the Secret Service apparently is under new management, or has been for some time, and they're talking about DEI, the diversity, equity,
Mm-hmm.
inclusion thing, and we saw that with some of the women officers, seemingly struggling to reholster their firearms, not really seeming like they knew what they were supposed to be doing, staying back when they were supposed to be in the huddle. This is something that a lot of people are concerned about right now, because, like, obviously you want the best and the brightest for any job. It should be a meritocracy. You were obviously in the job for some time, and you got that job because you went through some significant hard training to get there. What do you think of this whole idea of the DEI hire, and that possibly being the thing that made the whole communication fall apart?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that was a factor at all, right? Like that seems like speculation. I mean, on the DEI topic, like, I mean, at the time when I was doing that job, I didn't care. Like, I don't care, you know, if you're a woman or a man or whatever, right? If you meet the standards and you can do the job, good for you. But that's because that was a meritocracy based system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as long as you have to meet all the same standards I have to meet to get here, to get to this position, then good on you, right? And if you're a woman, it definitely would be more difficult. And so if you're hardcore enough to make it through all the physical training and everything that is required for like someone who did my old job as a woman, like, good on you, man. Like, I wouldn't have any issue working with a woman in that position if she's making those standards. But I think anyone with common sense, they might not say it out loud, but anyone with any kind of common sense is going to say, like, you can't give jobs like that to people just based on their gender or their, their identity, their, racial identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, whatever, right? Like, there's certain, I would argue almost every job, should be given to the person who is the most qualified, right? It's like all those other things should not matter. It's supposed to be an objective process, right? Um, I think granted, I've seen those videos that people are talking about, right? You see the
Mm-hmm.
fumbling of the holster and stuff like that. And I mean, it's a pretty high stress situation, right? The president of the United States, or former president, and likely the next president of the United States, just got shot at on your watch. Like, it's a big deal.
That is it's a big deal.
you're,
Yeah, if
you're,
you're not
you know,
nervous in that situation, I think there's something wrong with you
yeah, I
entirely.
mean, like, ideally, yeah, you want to have someone who's going to be like super calm under pressure and who's going to like be super smooth and know exactly what to do. But at the same time, you know, we're also assuming that all of those Secret Service agents are like full-time bodyguards, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Dan Bongino, he's kind of like a conservative media personality in the States. Pretty sure he's former Secret Service, right? Like, I think that
He
was
was
his old
definitely New
job.
York. I think he was a New York cop, and then
I
did
think he
Secret
was Secret
Service and other
Service as
things.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, uh, he made a comment about how the Secret Service was short, and some of those other people there were maybe Department of Homeland Security. And
Mm.
that does happen all the time, right? Like, people will get drawn in to do like a VIP detail, even though that might not be their full-time job. And so maybe they've taken the course like however many years ago, and they have to maybe once in a while do like some kind of recertification. But it's not like the people that are doing it like full time every single day, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
if they're not operational, they're training it. And so that's unfortunately, that's a reality in law enforcement, definitely, where you you sometimes you have to wear more than you have to do more than one job, and so you're not really great at either of them.
Right.
You can't really dedicate the time it takes to become a master of your craft. I mean, again, that's kind of speculation on my part, though.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in a situation like this, where you have someone like Trump, who's as high profile as he is, and a super polarized nation, like you said, lots of rhetoric about how he deserves to be taken out, right? Like, I think you should probably have a pretty switched on crew covering him. Would be, that to me seems kind of like maybe that's a naive assumption that you would try and put like some of your best people on him because he's probably the most likely target for an
Mm-hmm.
assassination attempt.
Well, we can all just be thankful that he did survive it, and I mean, he's going to live to tell this story. I think with that iconic photo, that's going to win him the next election. This whole situation, I
Oh, I
don't
think
think
this
there's been
just
an
secured it for him.
exactly that it
Yeah.
definitely did. Danny Bulford, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on the show. It's amazing to hear your expertise, and it's good. It's refreshing to hear. You wanna know about what happened to your car. Talk to a mechanic. If you want to know what happened to in security detail, talk to someone who's in security detail. So thanks for coming.
One thing I would say is like it's easy to armchair quarterback the people that were on the ground and responding to the shooting. And I mean, hey, it's out there. There's lots of questions that need to be answered, and I personally don't think we can expect any real like robust truth coming out of the Secret Service or the FBI as a result of this. But like my big question is, how did he get there in the first place? Like
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if people are saying they let it happen, I have a hard time thinking that those snipers let it happen, because
Right.
my experience with those guys in the past is like Trump is their guy, right? Like tactical guys, military, law enforcement, tactical guys, they love Trump, right? Because he's a big supporter of them. So I would be it'd be very hard for me to suspect one of them being involved in letting him get shot at. Um, but I mean, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that guy got help getting that close to that position. He's 20 years old. He's basically a kid with almost no training, right? Like it's not like it was a sophisticated sniper attack from like 1,000 meters or 500 meters from a concealed position. You know what I mean?
And it
Like
wasn't even a hard shot to make. I think a novice could make that shot, right?
with a rifle from a prone position, yeah. I mean, as long as you've done some basic shooting and zeroed your rifle, I mean, he got pretty close. He only missed the target by a couple inches.
Oh, thank God for that. Absolutely, thank God for that. Danny
Yeah.
Balford, where can do you as you have a social media presence? I know you've been trying to keep yourself,
No. Yeah.
secluded out doing the farming thing now.
Yeah.
But do you?
I'm not as public as I was before, but yeah, I'm still on social media on X or Twitter. I think it's at Bulford Daniel or at Daniel Bulford, one of the two, and same thing on Instagram.
I'll
All
make
good.
sure that everybody has the links for that in the description down below. Go follow Danny Bulford, ex RCMP sniper, and well, the hero to this country of Canada. Thank you so much for bringing your expertise.
Oh, thank you, Clyde. Have a good one, man. Good to see you again.